I have just one question about the Duke Blue Devils. If they answer that this year, please don't be surprised when they're at the top of the ACC standings, or near the top at least. JJ Jackson of Locked On Blue Devils is here. So here's my question, JJ. I like Duke. I've sung the praises all off season. I landed 9-3 with this schedule. I was this close, but I had to be like, whoa, okay, hold on, let's let them prove a little bit of something. I was this close to 10-2. I was on the edge of doing that. Here's a question I want you to answer that I think is among the top ones for Duke going into this year. It's not Darian Mensah at quarterback. No Jordan Moore, no Eli Pankel at wide receiver. Those guys were a terrific tandem last year. How are the Blue Devils replacing that production? Those two guys combined over 1,500 yards last season.
Yeah, that's a big question for me as well, because you obviously spend big to get the quarterback, but the question becomes, who's he going to be throwing the football to? I'm really excited about the returners that Duke has in the likes of Samir Hagans and Quayshawn Brown, who goes by Queso, which is an awesome nickname, at the wide receiver spot, returning. And then also Duke goes out in the transfer portal, picks up Andrew Anthony, the former Oklahoma wide receiver, who was poised to be one of the top wideouts for the Sooners last season had he not been injured. Also bringing a guy named Cooper Barkate from the transfer portal. So I think as a whole, there are names in that wide receiver room that aren't known now, and that is totally fine. But give it 3, 4, 5 weeks into the year, and it'll become more of a conversation about, oh, wow, these are really dynamic playmakers that Darian Mensah is getting to throw the football to.
I'm trying to figure out why our friends at FanDuel have Duke's win total only at 6.5. North Carolina, you'll love hearing this, is my favorite under bet in the ACC, even with their favorable schedule. I am fading that entire situation with Bill Belichick. Duke might be my favorite over bet in the conference because the schedule is very favorable, but it does make me wonder, JJ, is there something Vegas knows that I don't know? I would have thought this is at least a 7.5 win total team. First year head coach comes in and wins 9 games. They get a guy who had SEC offers in the transfer portal at quarterback in Darian Mensah, who will play on his old stomping grounds for game 3 in what we will call the Darian Mensah Bowl in an underrated non-conference college football game. That's Duke at Tulane. I am going to be so dialed into that game. What questions do you have about this Duke team that maybe the odds makers are going, we're not ready to view them as an elite team in the ACC just yet, because frankly, their schedule is SMU-esque from a season ago. It's not a carbon copy, but it is in that sort of vein.
I can't figure out why it is so low, Spencer. I mean, that's the big question I've been having for quite some time. It's something that I know we also have been circling back to on a nearly weekly basis on the Locked On ACC squad, is why in the world is Duke sitting at 6.5 wins, given what the schedule looks like and the key pieces that they've got returning and that sort of thing. To give people an idea of this program, Duke has 26 wins over the last 3 seasons. That is the third most in the ACC. When was that ever been the case about Duke? That's always been the standard in basketball within the conference. And here they are with this great success lately in their football program. So why the disrespect is still there and it's still sitting at 6.5, I really can't quite figure out, because you look at the offense, you upgrade there at the quarterback position. Defensively, so many key guys coming back in that defensive front and in the secondary for Duke. If there is a question, I think you would look to what can Duke do in terms of a ground game. They were second to worst offensively running the football in the conference last season, and still turned out a 9-3 regular season. So still found ways to win football games in that regard. Running the football maybe would kind of be that one weakness I look at right now for them.
I look at the schedule, and the front half is a lot tougher than the back half. Once they get to the Clemson game, from then on out, boy, if Duke plays the way they're capable of, the way they did last year when they won 9 games, there could be some smooth sailing here. So they have one of my favorite non-conference games of the year in week 2. They open with Elon. Of course, they'll be fine. At home against preseason number 12, Illinois, who's gotten a lot of respect from people like me. I think Illinois is a 10-win team this year. The AP voters, other national pundits, I think Illinois deserves that level of respect. If Duke wins that game, JJ, suddenly we're going to look at those games against Georgia Tech and Clemson a lot differently. They'll have to avoid what would be an emotional letdown potential the next week at Tulane, because that's a darn good Tulane team that's one of the G5 playoff favorites this year. But if they win that game, which is at home, oh boy. I mean, the train could be on the tracks full steam ahead.
And I hope it is. I hope that this program continues to get a lot of buzz in football. Duke's been pouring more and more resources into the program. You had a very successful 2-year run over or under Mike Elko. He gets the bigger opportunity in the SEC. And now we've got Manny Diaz, who has an unbelievable 9-3 regular season in year one. We'll see how he finishes up here as the second season gets going. But yeah, what a big test that is to be playing Illinois, a high noon kickoff there to get this thing rocking and rolling, in a big statement opportunity for the Blue Devils. To your point, if they win a game like that, man, I think a lot of people are going to be building momentum in what they'll be able to do throughout the course of the year.
They play NC State at home for their first ACC game. I think they win that one. 2 road games before they play Georgia Tech. On paper, JJ, I've got them down as 3-0 in that stretch. I really won't be shocked if it's 2-1. I just don't know. Syracuse and Cal are big mystery teams to me in the ACC. So I don't feel confident enough at this point in the year picking them to beat Duke. But certainly, Syracuse can be a tough place to play.
Yeah.
Fran Brown's a really good coach. You go all the way across the country, I think anything could happen in those sorts of games. Miami almost lost to Cal, for goodness sake. Cal did lose to Florida State in a cross-country trip last year, and Florida State was atrocious. So that stretch of games, I think, after the win or lose against Illinois, at Syracuse, at Cal, Georgia Tech at home, that 3-game stretch, I don't expect them to win at Clemson. That, I think, defines Duke's season this year.
The Georgia Tech game last year in Atlanta, Duke had so many different opportunities to win that one. I look at the SMU game as another one that Duke kind of got away last season from having a 10-win season in the first year under Manny Diaz. So if they're able to take care of business and clean up some of those mistakes that they had defensively, and again, Darian Mensah plays to the level that everyone expects him to. These wide receivers do step up and produce. Duke does get Jaquez Moore going out of the backfield, running the football. Get through that stretch like we're highlighting, and you've got a lot of buzz and momentum when a big-time game like Clemson comes up on the schedule.
Yeah, and it's at Clemson. Yeah, that's tough.
Yeah.
That's tough. Yeah, that's tough because I think Clemson's going to be really, really good this year. I said back half earlier. I really meant back third of the schedule, but I think there's some manageable parts, as we discussed on the front end as well. But it's the final 4 games that I look at that 6.5 win total and think, boy, if Duke is just sitting at like 3 wins at this point in the schedule, they could still go. If they're at 4 or 5 wins, like I expect them to be, this is an easy over. They've got a random Yeah, I'm in that camp too. At UConn, Virginia at home, at North Carolina, who I don't think is going to be any good, and Wake Forest in Jake Dickert's first year. I mean, you've got an inferior group of 5 team. It's on the road. I mean, they were respectable last year, but you know, it's UConn. You shouldn't have any problems in that game. Virginia, we'll see how much longer Tony Elliott can hang on. At North Carolina, I don't like that situation. Wake Forest at home. You got a couple of first-year head coaches to end the schedule. This is the part that I look at and go, boy, if that isn't 4-0, I think that would be kind of a disappointment for Duke.
Agreed. I want to get off to a good start with this Duke team, given the schedule and the hopes that they've got for the end of the year. I think it's been a big offseason, kind of transitioning to Darian Mensah with him getting there in January and working up to get the year started. So high expectations for Duke football to get off to a big start.
Bottom line, folks, do not, under any circumstance, overlook the Duke Blue Devils. We would never do such a thing here on this show with JJ Jackson of Locked On Blue Devils. One more thought.
Just we're more than a basketball school. That's what I want people to start to realize.
Yeah, that's
26 wins over the last 3 years. More than
John
like in basketball.
John Gruden, who maybe wants to get back into coaching, that could be fun.